Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio. Your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
Howdy y'all, Red O'Loughlin here. We're on the Corner Bookstore on the USA Global TV and Radio Network. When I'm not doing TV shows, and every Thursday I do 3 back-to-back shows, and I'm an author. I've had 7, 8 books now. I have a book that's coming out very shortly. I'll talk about that in a second. But I also a book coach and a publisher. Publish over 50 books for other people. And when I'm not doing that, I research the human body at the cellular level, chemically speaking. I look for cause and effect relationships. Treat a cause, fix a problem, treat symptoms, and you'll always be treating symptoms. My next book coming out July 4th is called Aging Sucks. And it's about a very in-depth look at the causes of aging and the causes of health and what we can do to help ourselves down the road. That's enough about me for today. Let's go into our author, JM or Jennifer Shaw. Please join us up here on stage.
Thank you for having me.
Always good. You've been a repeat guest here. I love to chat with you, say what's going on. For the audience that doesn't know, she has the Callum Walker series and 3 books and the 4th one on the way. Is that right?
Fourth one has been released now, so it's out there.
I noticed that when I looked on Amazon this morning, there was a 4th book. But the other stuff I looked at said it's coming out shortly. So it is what it is, isn't it? So
yeah, I'm working on, oh, sorry.
Go ahead. Tell us about the rest of the series coming that we don't know about.
Yeah, so I'm working my way through my 5th novel in the series. And when I wrote the books, I got to my 4th book, I switched editors. So, and they did such an amazing job that I went back to the beginning and I re-released my 1st book, relaunched it with a new cover. I added new chapters, new material. And then I'm doing a refresh edit of my 2nd and 3rd books and giving them new covers. So my 1st, 2nd, and 4th books have new covers, and we're working on the 3rd, and it'll be getting its new cover soon.
What did the new editor do that the old editor didn't do that made you happier?
I think there was a lot of, instead of just saying, oh, you're doing this wrong, there was more back and forth, like instead of just this is wrong, it's this is how we can improve this. And I think it helped me to grow as an author because I wasn't just being told wrong. I'm told this is wrong. Here's how we fix it. And I could apply that to new writing. And I also have just grown as an author myself, just naturally, like the more I write, the more experience I get, more confidence I get. And there were characters in my 1st book as well that didn't have a chance to have their voice. They're important throughout the series later as the series goes on, but they hadn't had their own chapters. So I had to give them their own chapters and then clarify things. And if I was going to do all that, I'm going to give it a nice new cover.
Okay. Did your new editor go back and read your first 3 books?
Yep.
Okay. So here, is it a she or a he?
Sahi.
Sahi.
He. Sorry, it's a he.
Okay.
Sorry, I blended my letters together.
Okay, so he went back, read your 3 books, got a good appreciation for what you're doing, looked at the new book saying, this is what we're going to do, this is why we're going to do it. And you said, sounds great. And then you went back and you say, you did such a good job on the 4th book. We really need to revisit the first 3. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, well, when I started the 4th book, because every editor has their own method, and also they were, the 4th book in the series, they don't have any idea what happened before. So I asked them, I said, before we edit the 4th book, can you look over my first 3? I will give you copies of them so that you can look at them, and then you can see where the series has gone, and you can see how much information I've brought forward, if it's appropriate, if it's not enough. And they were the ones that when they were going through it, and I could also see it with the corrections that were being made with the 4th book, that, oh, that's not what I was doing in the first 3. So we went back, and it was their advice, but I also recognized it as well, that it needed to be done.
Okay, for our audience, so why don't you give a kind of a, what's the plot, what's the characters, time frame, location of your books?
Yeah, so there's 2 worlds. There's our world, our time. There's a coexisting magical realm, but there's a veil that separates us, and we can't see across this veil because we don't have magic. But these creatures that do can and have, and they've been the source of inspiration for our fairy tales and monster stories and what have you. And then my protagonist, Callum Walker, is a young man born with the ability to use magic. He doesn't know why. He's trying to make the most of it. He's able to, because of his magic, cross that veil, or rather, he's dragged across that veil. Becomes embroiled in this magical realm, learning about this world and all the beings therein. Adventures ensue, and we follow him through the series as he's trying to figure out who he is, where he belongs, because he's too magic for here, too human for there, and master these abilities to survive.
Okay, that was very nicely done. Very quickly, very succinctly. You are getting more professional.
Yeah, oh, thanks. I've had a lot of practice telling people about my books because I do a lot of book signings and other events. So,
What part of the world are you in?
I am in Alberta, Canada.
Okay. My next guest today is from Ontario, Canada.
Oh, okay.
And of course,
Yeah, that's
yours
a
truly
ways
is from
away.
Houston, Texas. So
Yes.
we're all in North America. You started out 30 some years ago with a typewriter and started, as you say, a hobby. And then it eventually became a passion, and then eventually became
an obsession at times. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that phase of your life.
So when I was growing up, I very much felt like an alien dropped off on this planet without the script. So trying to understand how people communicate, how people interact. I spent a lot of time watching people and recording, observing conversations and recording them, like literally writing in notebooks. Okay, so-and-so said this. This was the reply. This must be what I need to say when somebody says that. So I was building myself a script so I could communicate with people. But then, and watching behaviors, and I couldn't figure out, I could see behaviors, but I can't figure out the motivations behind them or what triggers them or the thought process. And I can't open up people's brains and look inside. So I started reading fiction, and I started trying to connect fictional characters, their thoughts and the thought process with the behavioral presentation. And after a while that worked. But that only told me what those characters were thinking and those behaviors that resulted. And I wanted to really explore my own. And I was going through a period of time where I was very introverted. It was middle school. So there was, peer pressure, bullying, that kind of stuff going on. So when I was having odd motions I didn't know how to deal with, I would start to write, and I put myself in my character's head, and I would put them through events that would elicit those emotions that I was going through, so I could see how they dealt with it. And it kind of gave me a bit of closure, or being able to deal with these emotions without actually having to make mistakes in real life. As I went through the years, I never shared any of my stories. I started to, it was started as an outlet, then a hobby, then a passion, obsession. Now I could just consider it therapy now. But it wasn't until 2019 when I was diagnosed with autism and ADHD that I thought, maybe writing is my special interest. And it gave me the courage to send my first manuscript for my first book in my series to an editor. And, just keeping in mind, the worst they can say is it sucks. And my editor came back and said, this doesn't suck. You should publish. So 2 years later, I did. And now I have 4 books in this series published. I'm working on a 5th and a couple side projects.
So when did you graduate from a typewriter to a keyboard, a computer?
Well, computers were not as big when I was a kid, so I don't think I got I think I bought my first computer for like $75 it was a used computer from a college. And I was telling my kids that my word processor didn't even have a mouse. When I loaded it up, I had to go /win. It was that old.
Yeah, I remember those days very well.
Yeah. Yes.
So you graduated, then you started writing a little bit more, and with the typewriter, you obviously have a piece of paper that you can always have. But with
Yes.
the electronic world, you don't necessarily need that, but it's there if you want that option to get the piece. I'm editing a book now, and I'm serious. I've gone through over a ream of paper and 2 big ink cartridges just in the last week. Well, it took me 12 days to write. I'm about 8 days now into editing. And so it's overwhelming the amount of stuff that you can generate when you're writing.
Yes. And I write fast enough that there was one point I was at my grandparents' house and I was using their computer to write something just to get ideas down and stuff. And my aunt thought I was just playing on the keyboard, like not really writing. And she had to come along and she was looking over my shoulder. She's like, "You're actually writing that fast?" So I haven't, I mean, when I was in high school, I tested myself and I was above average. So for writing speed, but
Yeah. Last time I had a typing test professionally given was about 20 years ago, maybe 25, I'm guessing right now, it's near the turn of the century. And I was at 82 with a 0.5% error rate. So I was pretty happy with that.
yeah, oh, that's pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even know what I type at now.
Yeah. I'm less than that now, I will grant. And I'm also probably more error prone. But literally goes from here to the fingertips, and it's pretty fast. And it's, I guess, an enjoyment because I don't have to wait for my brain to catch up with my fingers most of the time.
Yes. Well, I hit that backspace button or the delete key faster than, so I don't even know if I make a mistake, I'm hitting it so fast, like it's like a number key.
Yeah. I likewise, if it's just a single letter, boom. But sometimes it's just single letter and I'm already into the next word or the word after that when I finally realized it was wrong. And okay,
Yes.
okay. And that's what I'm doing on my editing. I don't care what it is. First time pass, boom. Writing first time pass, boom. And
Yes.
so I'll fix everything down the road rather than spend the time now trying to fix, well, is that a D or an S that goes at the end of that verb?
Yes.
And so I'm back and forth. But if I'm looking for a really short publishing time, I can't be totally involved in a particular word or sentence at that time because there's time later on you can go back and do that. So that's the way I do that.
And then I don't know what writing program you're using, but most of them have the ability to either underline it or highlight it, make a note to yourself, like need to fix this later, or this sentence doesn't work, check it later. And then you can come back to it. But yeah, I mean, when the ideas are flowing, you want to get them out on the paper. You don't want to be stopped. It's like driving down the road. You want to get to your destination instead of having to stop at every single light.
Yeah, I use Microsoft Word primarily. That's the one I've been with. I've used a couple others in the past, but I'm very comfortable with that one.
Oh yeah, and they have really easy to use track changes, and you can highlight and make comments fairly easy.
I've never done that. My clients give me, manuscripts that have that on the margins, but I have never ever used that. The only feature I use outside of basically the spell check and thesaurus is the read back function. Where
yes. Oh, I'm very familiar with that.
Watch the yellow brick road go by and hear it. And if it hears okay and I don't see a problem, okay, then that's done. Move on to the next one. So I'm getting ready to go ahead.
I was gonna say I have dyslexia as well. So I miss a lot of words, or I reverse my vowel teams, or if there are multiple letters, I can't always hear it. So I have to have it read it back because you miss a letter at the end of assess and it becomes multiple donkeys.
Yes, it does. And so let's see here. You got dyslexia, ADHD, autism. What are the other 3 you're not telling us about? Joking,
well, I am.
Joking.
Yeah. I'm gifted in numeracy and pattern recognition. So
what is numeracy?
Numbers, like anything to do with numbers. I excelled in math. I excelled in physics. I guess it's a stim, but whenever I go out walking and I see a car drive by, I have to add the numbers up on the license plate until I get a single digit. But I'm very good with numbers.
Okay, you have an obsession. Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah, when our grandkids were little, they'd be in the back seat of the car, and we started out, okay, what's 1 + 3? And without any, they're captive audience for however long we're driving, and we went back and forth, and pretty soon, okay, spell cat, spell it backwards, and we did well with all that. We said, okay, what is 4 - 5? And that was, that was a stunner. And we said, okay, add up all the numbers from 1 to 10. And so by the time they got to kindergarten, their English and math were way up there.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And no fear of numbers. And that's the big thing, is that there's, some really good teachers and there's some okay teachers, but sometimes it takes a little bit extra effort to explain things. I know my grandson in high school, he would solve math, but the teacher says, I know you got the right answer. I know what you did, but that's not the way we're teaching it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they changed math from when I was a kid, and they're now doing base 10s. And I think somewhere along my teenage years and stuff, I started using base 10 in my head before they taught it. And I thought, oh, this is easier. This is so much easier. And then when I was homeschooling my boys who started to school, and I was like, wait, I thought I invented that. Because they didn't teach math that way when I was a kid. That was a hard lesson.
Yeah, my advanced chemistry classes, we had to know the logarithms, the first 10, because a lot of the stuff was log base E, log base 10. You had to go back and forth. Yeah. And so if you just knew it in your head, whatever it was, boom, you could almost automatically look and see what it is or get pretty close. Worst case, you just plugged in the number and you converted automatically from one to the other. And that made things pretty, let's say, made it simpler, but not necessarily easier.
Yes. Well, I have a hard time memorizing most things, but the numeracy part, numbers get locked in my head and I can see them and I remember them with only having seen them once.
Yeah. I'm a numbers kind of guy. Faces and names, no. But numbers, they stick easily.
Yes.
Okay, so the writing time in your first book was, let's say, a couple of years. How long did it take you to write number 4?
My first book, the rough drafts for my books, like the first one was like 2 months. The second one, I was on a roll, it was like 2.5 weeks. My third book was about 3 months. My fourth book was a little longer. It was closer to 6 months because, I'm getting busier now because I'm telling the world that I exist, and I'm working on my fifth book, and it's about maybe between a quarter and a third of the way through. So that one's going to take me the longest because I kind of had to put it on hold while I was doing the relaunch.
Do you have any thoughts as for book number 15 in this series?
Well, I actually hope it doesn't go to 15. I'd like to do some other things. I do foresee like somewhere around 9 is what I'm aiming for, but because whatever number I end on, it's got to be divisible without any remainders, because I don't like remainders. They're just leftovers. I just don't like them. Can't explain it.
Okay. Divisible by 3.
Or 5.
Okay.
Or 4. But whatever they're divisible by 5.
A whole number.
Yeah, they have to end up with a whole number, no remainders.
Okay, so divisible by 1 is acceptable?
I've already got more than 1, so.
Okay. So do you envision a totally new series, a totally different characters, or one of these characters actually coming out and being the main character down the road?
I've looked at the idea of doing like taking some of the characters that I really love in the books that I've discovered and doing their backstory or exploring them, or, jumping ahead at some point and doing like a future down the road after the events of this series happen, and what kind of happens after the end of it. I would also like to do, and I've got a side project I'm working on, a dystopian kind of Robin Hood meets Romeo and Juliet with hints of Hunger Games. And I've also got some sci-fi ideas and some thriller horror ideas. About the only thing I don't write is history, mystery, and spicy romance.
Okay. So you're not opposed to going back 20 years before your current characters and giving them a backstory when they were much younger, as opposed to, you can go either way. It doesn't matter. You're happy either direction you go time-wise.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's one character I'd love to go back 200 years into his past because, they live for hundreds of years, and explore the events that are taking place that led up to the moment now. Because I've referenced it a few times. I'm like, I would love to explore that history of his.
Okay, we're coming up on a break here very shortly, just in a few seconds. So when we come back, let's go ahead and talk about marketing your books when we return. And so we'll be catching back up here very shortly.
Okay.
How much of your value have you been giving away? saying yes when the answer should have been no, lowering your price to secure the opportunity, giving more while receiving less. Over time, it adds up. Until one moment brings clarity, you've been giving away your value. This is not about working harder. This is not about doing more. It's about boundaries. It's about pricing. It's about respect. From Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck comes a direct and necessary message. Stop over-delivering. Stop underpricing your expertise. Stop negotiating against yourself. Because when you recognize your value, everything changes. Stop giving away your value. Boundaries, pricing, and the business of respect. Available now wherever fine books are sold and on Amazon. A film by USA Global TV and Radio. Executive producer Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Videographer and cinematic production Paul Garcia. Voiceover by Ed Vargas. Stop giving it away. Start owning it.
Rhett Laughlin here. We're on the Corner Bookstore on the USA Global TV and Radio Network. My guest today is Jennifer J.M. Shaw. Please join me back up here on stage, Jennifer. Real quickly, before I get into marketing, thought occurred to me, in fact, actually just right now as I was saying your name, when I was doing some research on you, there's so many Jennifer Shaws out there who are authors.
Yes, I realized that too.
Is that why you went with J.M. Shaw? Is that one of the reasons?
No, it was more of an anonymity thing. I married into a Chinese family, so I also went with my maiden name, so people didn't expect Chinese content because I'm not Chinese. But I used my initials for anonymity, as well as I didn't want people to see that right off the bat, female author writing in the fantasy genre, oh, it must be a romantasy, because so many authors write romantasy and mine is not. And so I didn't want to confuse people. I'm not making it a secret. I am a woman, but it's a kind of an anonymity thing.
Okay, so somebody was looking for you, they would do jmshawauthor.com as their web, but we'll talk about that down the road too.
Yeah.
Okay. Marketing. When did you start marketing the first book?
I would say, so I released my first book in 2021, but I didn't really start marketing per se until the following summer. One of the first things I did is, the word marketing is terrifying, and I have no idea what it means. I'm not a marketer. I've never been a marketer. I am a stay-at-home mom right now, and I love writing, but to try to understand what it means, I stopped saying marketing and I start saying showing the world I exist. And that puts me in the right frame of mind. So with that mindset, I started doing book signings and school talks and, building up my Instagram and my Facebook and, sharing through word of mouth, where my books are. And I kind of started there and then just kind of built on there. And then within the last couple, almost 2 years now, I've been working with a publicist who has given me the opportunity to share my voice and tell a bigger portion of the world that I exist through podcasts and articles and interviews. And so it's been fun.
And your publicist is Mickey Mickelson.
Mickey, yeah. Yes. And I have his information on my website. So if anybody needs to reach out to him, his information is there too.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
Yes.
Love him a lot. Your books are right now in paperback and ebook. You have audiobooks?
Not yet, but I'm looking into it. I've had enough requests. So my books are available through print and on Amazon. They're available on Kindle. The first two are on Barnes & Noble, Press, and Kobo. The others will be as shortly. I just, trying to research hardcovers and audiobooks to make those available.
I know that Amazon gives you the hard book option right away. I have a client that I'm working with that, for whatever reason, the designer that she insists on keeping can't get a hardcover cover for the outside of the book. It just every time, here's the error dimension, but she can't make it right. I don't know.
Oh.
It is what it is.
Well, unfortunately for any authors who are using Amazon or KDP in Canada, there is no way to order copies of hardcovers. They don't have a printer for them in Canada. So what I would have to do is I can design it, I can upload it, but it's only available in the US, and I'd have to order them to somebody I know in the US who would then have to pay to ship them to me. And
Well,
it would be astronomically expensive.
that's interesting. I did not know that.
Yeah. If they may change it sometime, I don't know, but for the time being, it's I cannot get hard copies in Canada of my book through that
Okay,
means.
so you have to go through Barnes and Noble or Instagram or Ingram Spark or somebody.
Yeah, something like that. And I'm looking into those as an option.
Okay, foreign languages. Do you have any intent in putting your books in foreign languages, French or Chinese, for instance?
I have not thought of that actually. I know that KDP and Amazon sell my books, like there's an option to sell it internationally, but I don't know if they translate it or if it's sold in English to non-English speaking countries. So I hadn't thought about that. I haven't had anybody request that, and I'm not going to discount it as an option.
You might look into Fiverr.com. You're familiar with them?
Yes.
They didn't used to. It used to be you pay thousands of dollars to get your book, but they have some people there that like 14 years in Dutch or whatever, and they are used to doing books where they understand English well enough so that the idioms and other things that we typically understand in both languages are easily translatable. And it's just a price for number of words that are being done. I'm giving some serious thought to doing that for a couple of my books here shortly, but that might be a source to look at, and just to, at least have something to price compare and quality compare against things.
I know I've had somebody ask. I've been asked a lot if I had ever had any plans of having my books made into a screen or a movie, TV series or something, and I said I would not be opposed to that. And the day somebody contacts me about that, I'll have that discussion. But and then I've also had people ask me if I'd be considering my books as a comic and made into a comic book. And I have a harder time envisioning that, just because I haven't had I grew up with the Archie comics when I was a kid, but that was the extent of it. So I'd have to look into that a little bit, but I'm not opposed.
I never heard the comic routine is something I've never even thought about. So that's an interesting concept. The book changing into various things. I had an author on within the last couple of weeks. He's from Canada. He speaks English and French, and he's in the process of writing his books again in French himself. But that's a skill that a lot of us don't have. So you pay for that from somebody else. But okay, video marketing. Have you done any of that?
I've done some shorts here and there, but other than podcasts, I was invited the end of last year to become a co-host on a international podcast show called the Sportcat Shows. It used to be Para or Normal Guys. And so I'm doing that once a week, but I'm also looking at creating and broadcasting my own podcast, because I see so many people doing that. And there's topics that I would love to discuss that I don't see as many people discussing.
Don't forget, there's always live TV too, in addition to podcast.
Yes.
Okay. So are you aware? I'm sure you are. Okay. Let me ask the question the way I should have asked at the beginning before I jumped into video. AI, do you use that at all in anything that you're other than just spell checking and grammar checking?
I've used it as a thesaurus.
Okay.
I've used it to brainstorm ideas, like, what type of material did they make their plates out of in medieval times? Those kind of things. But I've used it for the intended purpose that it is a tool. I've never used it to write my stuff. I will never use it to write my stuff. It's just a fancier tool. And I think that we just need to keep that in mind whenever we are using it.
Yeah, mine's a lot of research, so most of mine is done, but every so often I got to whack them upside the head and say, this is what I want, and go back and rewrite the prompt. I have a 2-page prompt I started with, and I said, go back and rewrite the prompt to include whatever we're doing right now, so we don't have to go through this iteration after iteration to get to a final answer. And after about 6 or 7 of those whacks, finally getting to the point where I can have a good brainstorming session. And because a lot of times they don't want to give you some information because it could be, let's say, in the medical field and in health and wellness, it may not be something you want. So I get, a cautionary thing. He'll still tell me, I'm using the he still tells me that, this is what it is, but just be cautious because it's not accepted all around. And so sometimes because of that cautiousness, I don't get the level of detail that I need. And so I started comparing, this AI with this AI with that AI, trying to see where's that happy batch at. And the one I started with first, I guess he's most adapted to me because the other ones are still, they're not playing the game the way I want it to be played. Okay. So that being said, there are super simple ways, hypernatural.ai, I think is what it is. And literally I take let's say this is what I want to say. I say, Chat GPT, that's the one I use. Give me a 35-second video presentation. Here are the basics. Take a look at his write-up. Okay, I change a couple things. And I throw it into Hypernatural. In less than 10 minutes, I have a video live on social media.
Yeah,
Free.
I've used it to create images because I'm not a visual artist, and or I will find something close to what I want on Canva, but it's not quite there. So I will do the best I can and say, ChatGPT, can you put a dark fantasy spin on this? Like not changing the wording, but just making the picture look more purpley or something. Yeah. But so I've done that before.
But the video shorts you can do a minute, 30 seconds, whatever, you just tell it. And literally it creates the video in a minute or two, and it's a video and it goes out on Instagram and Facebook. What social medias do you use?
I use Instagram and Facebook.
Those are your primary ones?
Yeah.
So if people want to find you, we'll talk about that here in about another 4 or 5 minutes. But so social media, how active are you with those?
I try to post every weekday. I only just recently, within the last few months, I'd say, learned how to schedule posts, so I'm able to post a little more regularly. But there's, if there's events and stuff that are happening beyond the regular Monday through Friday posts, then I will post those, like upcoming book signing events, if I can catch it, post those before the events. I also do the Wednesday podcasts regularly, so I post that on Wednesday because it's a live, and I'll give the link to it, and I do usually get the information ahead of time. But yeah, or anything that's special that comes up that I want to tell people about right away and not wait for like 4 weeks so that it can be posted in the schedule.
You mentioned earlier you were diagnosed with ADHD and autism late in life.
Yes.
How did you recognize you had a problem, and what did you do when you finally decided, let me go talk to someone?
So I didn't even think about it as a possibility. It wasn't, autism and ADHD were not really that well recognized. And I mean, like, unless you struggled in school, people didn't really give you the time of day. It's just, if you were hyperactive, you were a problem child, you needed more discipline. But it wasn't until my sons started into preschool, and there were social communication red flags and other red flags in their behavior. So we went through the ADOS assessments with my oldest son. And as we're going through that, that's very in depth. And they were asking me questions about milestones, upbringing, and they were talking about any different behaviors or any certain types of behaviors and certain types of categories. And I started to think, it's like, these are red flags. These are the red flags that I've done those my whole life. I just thought those were normal. So he got his diagnosis in July, I think it was June or July. And I went to a private psychologist, and I did the ADOS assessment for myself as well. They had to modify it because it's not really testing for grown-ups, it's for kids. So she modified it, and she did the ADHD test, and she did a IQ test at the same time, and found out that I'm severe combined presentation ADHD, and the autism that I have would have been called Asperger's. And then looking back throughout my life, it made sense. Like some of the things that I did, like I taught myself to read when I was 4. I've always had the issue with numbers. From the time I could count, I was counting. And I built myself, when I was 11, I built myself a working seismograph with rubber bands, cardboard, and a pencil, and buried it in my backyard in a shoebox, and it worked. I got grounded though when I made a sundial on my windowsill with permanent marker. I got grounded for that one. But I thought everybody did that. And even with my sons, I have people say, oh, they're very busy boys. And I didn't know what that meant, because I grew up with brothers, and I don't have anybody to compare them to, because I didn't have family went around when I was raising them in the early years. And so when people would babysit them and they tell me that, it's like, oh, okay, thank you. And then it wasn't until I babysat a little girl who was around their age, and I thought she was broken. I thought there was something wrong, because she just sat there and played. I had no idea kids could just sit and play, that they're not constantly trying to dive bomb somebody off the couch or hit them over the head with a Buzz Lightyear, you know? And I do know, though, that after I was diagnosed with autism, and I haven't kept it a secret, I've shared it, because there's a lot of people that just don't understand. I think one of the first questions I was asked is, oh, what's it like to be autistic? And my response to that was, what is it like to not be autistic? You tell me what it's like to not be autistic, and I can tell you what it's like to be, because it's all I know.
We're getting ready to wrap up the show, and here in a minute I'm going to let you tell people how they get in touch with you. But one last quick question. What is one thing, a lesson learned over the first 4 books that you've done, that would help new authors get started and get a book published?
You can write it, you can proofread it, you can edit it up the wazoo, you can have a million different people look at it, and it will still never be perfect. And that's okay. It's not supposed to be perfect. We're human. We don't make things that are perfect. And if it was perfect, it wasn't written by a human.
How do people get in touch with you? How do they buy your books?
So best place to start is my website that's the homepage of my website. So I've got links to my books. I've got descriptions. So if you click on my learn more, so you can learn more about the books, the links are right there, and they can take you to Amazon, to Kobo, to Barnes and Noble. I've got links to Amazon.com and Amazon.ca. I've also got my Facebook and Instagram there on the bottom, as well as a Goodreads link, so you can see what other people are saying about my books. And an events page will tell you where I'm going to be for events and other things coming up.
Okay, for our audio audience, who'll be joining us later on this afternoon, J.M. Shaw, SHAW, author.com, and under the same name on Facebook and Instagram.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think on Instagram I have an underscore between Shaw and author.
Jennifer, JM, I really enjoyed our conversation today.
Well,
I appreciate you joining us again. I look forward to our next conversation, and maybe
Absolutely.
book 5 is out, and it'll be a good time to reconnect and see what's going on in your life.
It would be a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Well, J.M. Shaw, Jennifer Shaw was our guest today on the Corner Bookstore. My next show here, literally in about 24 minutes, is The Wise Ones, and I have a really good author. Not author. He's also an author, but he's a business coach, business strategist, breakthrough artist, a lot of things. And so I'm going to enjoy our conversation with him. After that, I have a show called The Talking Heads, and my topic today is, why does fasting change the biology of aging? And so I'll be talking about that in some detail. If you're watching our show today on YouTube, really appreciate it if you would consider subscribing to either USA Global TV and Radio.com and Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck, KERBECK.com. My talk this afternoon is primarily about aging and the biology of aging. The book I have coming out shortly, July 4th, is my publication date. It's called Aging Sucks, and it's about what are the causes of aging. And basically, I look at it very simply. If your repair capability can overcome your damage done every second of every day, you're going to be healthy. But at some point in time, the repair capability of your body can't exceed the damage being done. And then that's when aging starts really in earnest, and your risk of disease increases. So I'm looking at the hallmarks of aging. I'm looking at the hallmarks of health. And I think I have 4 or 5 different pathways of disease that start different places in the body and progress into a disease. But that's what I'm talking about today in about 2 hours. So Red O'Loughlin here. We're signing off on the Corner Bookstore on the USA Global TV and Radio Network. And I look forward to seeing you next week, or literally here in the next 22 minutes on The Wise Ones. Take care, y'all. Bye now.
Hey, you. Psst.
Yes, you, watching this right now. Are you creating content, a blog, a podcast, a newsletter, going live on Instagram or TikTok, and still not seeing real visibility or growth? Here's why. Anyone can post, anyone can go live, but not everyone is positioned to be taken seriously. Right now, people are going to YouTube to search for experts, for answers, for credibility. So while you're putting in the work, someone else is being seen as the authority. Not because they know more, because they're positioned better. Now imagine this. Your own professionally produced TV show, marketed, distributed, optimized with SEO so people can actually find you. Not just seen, but searchable, discoverable, positioned. You're trained, you're coached, you're guided. No experience necessary, but you do have to be coachable, because this is about stepping into a higher level. This isn't about doing more, it's about doing it right. We've already built the platform, 2 YouTube channels, a global audience, a Silver Creator Award. So the question is, how much longer are you going to rely on temporary visibility when you could be building real authority? If you're ready to be seen differently, go to usaglobaltv.com and apply to host your own show. This is for individuals who are serious about investing in their visibility, their credibility, and their growth. If that's you, we're ready. USA Global TV and Radio, where your voice becomes your platform. Executive producer, Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Videographer, Paul Garcia. Voiceover, Ed Vargas. All rights reserved. This production is the exclusive property of the USA Global TV and Radio and may not be reproduced, distributed, or used without written permission.
My Tummy Hurts by Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Meet Jackie. She loves recess, running with friends, and laughing on the playground. At school, Jackie tries to play like she always does, but suddenly the pain comes back. Lately, something feels different and her tummy hurts, sometimes a little and sometimes a lot. With the help of a caring teacher, a nurse, her mom, and a kind doctor, Jackie begins to understand what her body is trying to tell her. Sometimes tummy pain is more than a simple bellyache. Some children live with conditions like ulcerative colitis or Crohn's disease. Jackie listens to her body. She asks for help. She knows she's not alone. And Jackie finds her way back to running, laughing, and being herself. My Tummy Hurts, a kid's guide to bellyaches and bathroom troubles by Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck, available on Amazon and in fine bookstores around the world. USA Global TV and Radio proudly presents Tracy Cram Perkins, a dementia caregiving survivor teaching how to balance care with peace of mind. #1 resource for dementia caregivers. It's the book Dementia Home Care: How to Prepare Before, During, and After. Over 17,000 copies sold of this must-have guide. And now a testimonial from Tracy Smith.
If I was to describe this book to someone who is going through a similar situation, I would underscore how important it is to have some sort of a tool or a guidebook to help you through certain stages. And there's so many, it's such an unknown topic to the average person. And to have this as a reference is essential. It's going to help you get through it personally, as well as help your loved one manage.
To learn more, go to TracyCramPerkins.com. Tracy Cram Perkins is an award-winning author. She's also the host of Dementia Home Care television show. Watch it here on USA Global TV and Radio.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USA Global TV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative Direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.